SB 709 officially goes into effect January 1. What do you need to know if you're operating self-storage in California? And AI is all the rage, and it's hitting self-storage like everything else. What are the things you need to be on track with to make sure that your operations and your investments are best utilizing what's going on in the world of AI? All that and more today on the Self-Storage Report. I am your host, Thaddeus Campbell, Director of Business Development and Strategic Branding at S3 Partners. My co-host, Chris Berg, better known as the AI storage guy, Abernathy Holdings Land Development in California. He is on vacation for Christmas. We will see him back very soon. I want to dive right into what's going on in the transaction market based on an aggregate of different data sources, Sorry Daily and a few others. It's looking like about a 20% increase in storage transaction volume in 2025 over 2024. Of course, 2024 saw a massive dip from 2023 when there was over $9 billion in storage deals, not including the Life Storage and Extra Space merger, which was $12 billion all by itself. So $9 billion down to about $5.1 billion in 2024. Projections for just under $6 billion of transactions, almost a 20% rise in 2025. Not really a thing that I expected given what's going on with the interest rate environment. Big driver of this was the big guy on the block, Public Storage, which of course is the largest owner of self-storage. We're going to share a graphic here showing how active they've been in 2025. This is based on their third quarter earnings reports. They had already closed 49 facilities with another 12 under contract expected to have closed before the end of this year. $511 million had been closed by end of Q3 on those 49 facilities, expected to top $631 million in total acquisitions in 2025 alone, adding 6.1 million net rentable feet to Public Storage's portfolio. Of course, the big question is, will this continue as we head into 2026? And I'm going to reference a Skyview Advisors graphic that I saw this week. I wanted to share with you guys out of their report that got distributed in December, showing achieved rates and same-store rates for the 5 big REITs. This doesn't include U-Haul. Of course, U-Haul's main business is trucks, and so oftentimes we don't use their data there to compare because they run their storage operations slightly differently than the other big REITs. We do have SmartStop included among the REITs this year. Of course, SmartStop became a public REIT during 2025, a new addition to the REITs. Also, a big acquisition this year of their own as they folded Argus Self-Storage Management into their company. A $33 million deal that happened in the third quarter of this year, was announced in the third quarter of this year. But very interesting trends as we're looking at this graphic. CubeSmart, of course, with the highest rates achieved. This is showing achieved rates. So based on Q3 earnings reports, Skyview Advisors going in and tracking what their achieved rates have looked like. And this is sort of good news for the storage industry on a quick glance, as we see that rates for 4 of the 5 REITs are staying really steady with 2023 highs achieved rates. Of course, we saw the spike in web rates and street rates during COVID in 2021 into 2022 that dipped precipitously. But what we haven't seen is a real big dip in achieve rates, of course, with the one big outlier here being Extra Space. Extra Space, of course, largely given, if you want to call it credit for the ECRI, existing customer rate increase swing that happened in 2023 into 2024. It has not looked like it's been a great strategy for their achieve rates, which have dipped from a high of $23 in 2023 down under $20, although starting to come back a little bit as we head into the end of 2025. So the question becomes, based on this data, are we going to keep seeing a healthy environment? Of course, we had the roundtable last week. If you missed last week's episode of the Self-Storage Report, strongly urge you go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/at the Self-Storage Report. Andy Bratt, Anna Saradzi Herdina, Cody Baker, Gantry, Talinvest, Baker Capital Partners, respectively. Unbelievable information that we were able to share as far as where the capital markets are. And according to all three of them, CMBS, debt funds, life insurance, and the banks are now coming back into play as well. So there's plenty of capital Of course, they're being picky about which deals they want to give money to, but the capital is out there. If you can find the right deals, obviously, we just showed the graphic from Skyview Advisors. The achieved rates are out there. Expect that going into 2026, there is going to be plenty of activity. I want to show another graphic that just kind of compares. Interesting to me, and why I said this sort of caught me by surprise and a little bit of a anomaly to me. Look where we were at in 2021. Cap rates dipped under 5% overall. Of course, this is a broad stroke. There were people with, class A, A market facilities that were trading. I heard of a transaction that was at a 2.8 cap. So, 4.9, an aggregate over secondary, tertiary markets, as well as primary markets, class A and B facilities. Interest rates were in the 3 to 4%. And so it made perfect sense that we were seeing cap rate compression because capital was so easily accessible. What's been amazing to me, and I guess caught me by surprise, although in hindsight, as I'm getting more and more informed, it shouldn't be surprising. We're seeing interest rates in the 6 to 8% range, 6.5% right now. If you're looking at an acquisition of traditional bank debt, is sort of the range that I'm hearing. Might get lower if you're using life insurance money. But cap rates are trading still in the fives. Now that says 5.8. Again, that's an aggregate number based on a bunch of different commercial real estate, different data sources. Of course, Public Storage in their third quarter earnings report announced that they were buying at a 5.25 cap. So they're well below that 5.8% cap rate. The question becomes, are we still going to see these transactions in the 5 cap range as we go into 2026, where by all indications, the Fed is going to slow down on interest rate cuts. It looks like those cuts have already been priced into the market as far as what rates are at. We didn't see a drastic drop in rates based on what happened at the Fed earlier this month. So we've got a lot to keep our eye on in the transaction market as we head into 2026. Of course, I talked to a few brokers. Had Kevin Bledsoe on the Stories Behind the Door podcast a few weeks ago. Very prominent broker on the East Coast. Talked to other brokers as well. Certainly seems like the transaction market, the capital out there and the groups looking to acquire self-storage still very, very strong. A little bit of downswing in the CO market. That's been challenged over the last couple of years. Maybe that starts to come back a little bit. I don't see that necessarily happening. But for existing assets, whether they're halfway through lease up or fully leased up, really strong indications that it's looking like 2026 is going to be another great year. So I want to give a shout out to our title sponsor, QuikStor. So thankful to have them on board. Brett Henry and the team have built an incredible operating system. If you're running more than 10 self-storage locations, you already know this truth. Inconsistency will kill your NOI. One site pushes rents on time, another lags behind. Changes to the operation have to be input on each location. It's inefficient. Leasing, delinquency, pricing, all over the map at your different locations. Brett Henry, of course, lived this pain firsthand. After exiting his first portfolio for $245 million, he built Trojan Storage to 50 locations, and he was not going to rely on another Band-Aid solution. So he partnered with world-class Chief Technology Officer Andre Hadzi-Pavlovich, who had already exited a massive tech company, and they built QuikStor specifically to answer this problem for multi-site platforms. Lightning fast, centralized, automated, and built specifically to eliminate operational drift across multi-site portfolios. And for listeners of the Self-Storage Report, there's a bonus. Mention that you heard about QuikStor on TSSR, and they're going to waive the onboarding fee of $995. Stop leaking money through inconsistency. See what a real operating system looks like. Go to QuikStor.com and take control of your portfolio. Other big news that made headlines this year, of course, SB 709. Senator Carolyn Menjivar represents the Valley, the San Fernando Valley, just north of Las Angeles. She introduced legislation earlier this year that initially was going to put rent caps on self-storage facilities across the state of California. One of her family members had their prices raised in a massive way at a self-storage facility, brought this to Senator Menjivar's attention. She introduced this legislation. Kudos to the members of the California SSA. Gary Sugarman and the team at the California SSA were able to negotiate with Senator Menjivar and the other leaders backing this legislation. We're able to create a situation where once it was adopted, did not actually put rate caps. Instead, this was more of a legislation that is going to force self-storage operators to be transparent in what they're renting. So we're going to go over for you guys, as this is expected to get adopted January 1, not expected, it will be adopted January 1, 2026. Exactly what is it if you're operating a self-storage facility in California that this law is requiring you to do? So in your rental agreement, and the word is prominently, right? It has to say the length of the rental term and how renewals work, right? If it's a month-to-month lease and the renewals are automatic until the customer cancels, it has to lay that out very clearly. Did the renter receive a promotional or discounted fee to sign up? Has to say it very clearly in the lease agreement. The duration of that promotion or discounted rate, how many months, how many days, whether the rental fee is subject to change. And if so, the maximum the rental fee may be changed during the first 12 months of the agreement. So if you bring someone in at $150 a month and they might go to $400 a month before the end of year one, you have to lay that out in their rental agreement. Steps the occupant must take to terminate the rental agreement and avoid future charges. What do they have to do to get out of their lease? And then contact information for the facility owner. This is a pretty big one. It requires you to put the facility owner's name and information into the lease agreement. So SB 709, Governor Gavin Newsom signed this legislation into law back in October. It goes live starting January 1. Of course, check out our friends at QuikStor. Their operating software is already set up to address these leasing issues. So if you want to check out QuikStor, you can go to quickstor.com and they are going to help you be able to take care of this. The last big topic I wanted to talk about for 2025 that I think has been all the rage is AI and how it's playing a role in storage. And we're seeing it in so many different ways and in so many different aspects of what's happening. Of course, we're very lucky on the show to be data partners with Tract IQ. Noah Starr and his incredible team at Tract IQ are using machine learning daily. You guys can check them out at tractiq.com/TSSR. Get a demo of their site. They're using machine learning to daily scrape web and street rates from all the different self-storage facilities around the country and make that information available, as well as using AI to help understand what's happening in the pipeline of development deals, so you know what's coming in various markets. Just one of the incredible different groups that we've seen in this space. A couple people that I think, of course, QuikStor, Brett Henry and his team are leveraging AI immensely in their software management systems to help understand trends that you might not otherwise see as a human being, that they're going to be able to recognize patterns leveraging the power of AI, of machine learning, things that are going on in the industry. The other incredible aspect of what's going on in the industry is chatbots. Public Storage talked about this. They're now getting roughly 85% of their customers are coming without a human interaction phone call, right? So they're seeing people that are coming onto a website. They're able to use a chatbot to talk to that person. It might get kicked to a live person in the chat, but they don't necessarily see someone at a store or talk to someone on the phone. We're seeing the advent of technology and the immersion of technology in the self-storage space in a massive way. So kudos to the various people in the industry that are helping to bring this transition into self-storage. I, of course, go to Noah Starr at Tract IQ, Brett Henry at QuikStor and his team, Andre Hadzi-Pavlovich, and the rest of the team at QuikStor. Shout out to Dan Foote and Shayna Kosert, who are the on the ground for QuikStor at all the trade shows. You guys will see them there. But there's so many other people in the industry that are at the forefront, people that like Jean-Michael Die and his team at PropRise, Tyler Sellers at Cactus AI. If you haven't connected with Tyler Sellers, strongly urge you to make that connection. We're seeing it enter every facet of the self-storage game. We, of course, back in October, had a developers roundtable. Actinat of DXD, driven by data. That's literally the name of their company. DXD stands for driven by data. And also from Trojan Storage, why am I blanking on her name? It'll come to me in a sec. Lauren Feeney. There you go. Had a brain cramp there for a second. Lauren Feeney of Trojan Storage. And those two massive operators are using AI daily. They have proprietary AI systems that they're using to load data into and make assessments. Cam talked about how they can understand zoning codes. They can see every parcel in an area. If they're going to look at a development deal, they can map out every other parcel that might come available and whether or not it's zoned correctly to be a competitive storage store, so they can make really smart decisions leveraging the power of AI. Lauren Feeney and the team at Trojan using similar data and their own proprietary software to do the same thing on the acquisition side of it, really understanding not only does this site work for them, is it a good acquisition for them or a good development project, but what else is out there that could possibly hurt in the long term of that investment. So strongly urge you, if you are in self-storage, connect with these people. Cam Pactonat, Lauren Feeney, Tyler Seller, Jean-Michael Da, Noah Starr. They're all people you can find very easily. Connect with them, have conversations. I had an amazing conversation on the Stories Behind the Door podcast recently with Rob Kopp of Keep It Simple Storage, the KISS lock, not driven by AI, but technology, innovation that's coming into the self-storage space that's really going to help people collect more data, make more intelligent decisions, not only as far as acquisitions, but as far as how you're operating the current stores that you have. It's our mission here, my mission. I have the Stories Behind the Door podcast that I use to introduce people to the incredible people in this amazing industry that we're lucky to be a part of. This show, of course, TSSR, all the news you need to know to make smart self-storage investments. We want to make sure you're understanding exactly what's going on in the self-storage space right now. AI is all the rage. Just had Alyssa Quill, incredible co-founder of Storage Asset Management. She's the current guest on Stories Behind the Door. If you go to youtube.com/@Stories Behind the Door podcast, you can see the full length video. But I want to share a quick clip from Alyssa Quill talking about how Storage Asset Management is already immersed in using AI.
Our marketing team has been using AI to generate content we manage about 90 brands, so 90 different websites that need a lot of content. And now that we have ChatGPT and Gemini and AI overviews, you need even more content that's relative on the web or relevant on the website. So we've been using AI, in some ways like that.
Amazing interview. That was more than 30 minutes I got to spend with the incredible co-founder of Storage Asset Management, Alyssa's story. She's built Storage Asset Management from 20 locations that they managed when she bought the company in the late 2000s to almost 600 different locations that Storage Asset Management is managing today. So shout out to Alyssa and her team at Storage Asset Management. My guy, Dave Deems, who helped me set up that incredible interview. Very grateful for Dave for helping to arrange to get Alyssa on the podcast. You can move over to the Stories Behind the Door podcast on YouTube and check that out. That just went live today. Her story is unbelievable. Really, really a credit. Another credit of many to the self-storage industry. So shout out to Alyssa Quill, and really grateful that she was willing to join us on the Stories Behind the Door podcast. Next week on the show, we are going to do a live interview with Stan Bonilla, the vice president of Safeguard Self-Storage out of New York, Long Island. Stan's an incredible guy, also deeply involved in the New York Self-Storage Association. We're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming investment forum. But next week, Stan and I are going to have a conversation about a project, a video that Stan taped with, this is Peter Ferraro, the CEO of the New York Self-Storage Association, on battery energy storage systems. So really excited to have Stan on the show next week. You can reach out to Stan. This video, by the way, if you want to see it, it's available only to New York Self-Storage Association members. I strongly urge you to join the self-storage associations of your local states. New York being an incredibly active organization at the forefront. We talked about SB 709 out in California. Of course, Gary Sugarman and the team at the California SSA, instrumental in making sure that that legislation wasn't more painful to the industry, right? Right now, just a disclosure law should not be too challenging for operators to follow what it is it's asking for. And in fact, there's a lot of folks out there that think it actually might help raise rates as it takes away the desire to have a cut rate at the beginning to draw people in, because you just can't get away with it the way you used to be able to. You're going to have to disclose it. So there's some people in the industry that feel that this actually will help long term with achieved rates. NYSSA is doing the same thing. There's been a lot of legislation in the New York City Council that wants to enact rate caps. There's actually a law going around, a proposed law in the city that aims to cap rates at 2%. NYSSA is on the forefront of hiring lobbyists to make sure that that doesn't get enacted. So should join NYSSA anyway. Want to absolutely urge you to do that. This video that Stan Bonilla and Peter Ferraro did on battery energy storage systems. For those of you not keeping track, as we've had this incredible explosion of data centers around the country, it's taxing our electrical grid. There is an opportunity now for us as self-storage owners. If your location is in the right zoning, there's no zoning for these battery energy storage systems that currently exist. They're not going to allow it in residential areas, but we need these battery energy storage systems to help support the power grid. You definitely want to sign up for the New York Self-Storage Association, become a member. I think the fee's $300 for the year. It's negligible. This is an opportunity to add NOI to your stores, especially, and you know, you're going to have to do your research and you're going to have to dig into it. Obviously, the New York SSA is talking specifically about what's going on in New York. This is a need around the country. So strongly urge you. You can reach out directly to Stan, reach out to me. You can also go to the New York Self-Storage Association. I'm going to put this up again. And my guy behind the scenes, Eric, is going to put the link up. You can join NYSSA right at this link. Peter Ferraro, kudos to the team at the New York Self-Storage Association. We're going to end the show today by going through a little bit of what's coming up. Before I do that, I want to give one more shout out to my guy, Noah Starr, and the team at Tract IQ. They have been supporters of the Self-Storage Report since we first started back in June. They were our first partner as our data partner. Noah, of course, comes on the show, does an incredible job. We typically have him right after the earnings reports are released. He is second to none in digging into the earnings reports, and his team at Tract IQ, of course, releases an in-depth report after that happens, showing all the different things that they take out of that. So we'll have Noah coming up soon. In fact, I'm going to join him. He's going to join next week's show live to give a recap of what his thoughts are on 2025 and what he sees coming up in 2026. A little teaser. They've also got some big changes coming to the tractiq.com website. So some things that users are going to be able to use that we think are going to be game changing in the self-storage industry. So again, so grateful as we head into Christmas. One of the things I'm incredibly grateful is for Noah Starr and his team at Tract IQ for supporting us. Of course, glad to welcome QuikStor on board as our title sponsor now. Would be remiss if I didn't mention Terry Campbell of Johnson Insurance, our risk partner as well. Couldn't make this show happen without the incredible support we get from those folks. Going to finish up with another graphic here as we've got some really big events coming up. The investment forum I just talked about, NYSSA. If you are not registered for this, for my money, this is the most important event that you can go to for the year. It is a one-day event. It is got an incredible lineup of folks. Talinvest is going to be on stage. They're going to have representatives from all 6 of the REITs. I mentioned SmartStop, NSA, CubeSmart, Public Storage, Extra Space, and U-Haul, all going to be on stage. Nick Malagisi, the president of the New York Self-Storage Association, will be moderating that. But there are a bunch of different panels that are going to be on through the course of the day. I've been to this event many times, and for my money, it is the most information you can get out of an event. You go to the National SSA show, of course, that tends to be a lot more about networking and about going to talk to people that you want to do business with. Yes, there are some great presentations that go on as well, but the investment forum is just one day, 9 hours in a room with an incredible amount of relevant information for the self-storage industry. Of course, it's put on by the New York SSA. but it tends to be information that is relevant nationwide. Looking forward to my first time, and thank you so much to my boss, Barry Sherman at S3 Partners, making it possible for me. I will be out at the Executive Ski Workshop in Snowmass. Guys, if you're going to either the investment forum or to the Executive Ski Workshop, of course, if you haven't registered yet and you want to go, I'm not sure if there's still spots available for the ski workshop. Investment forum, they do still have spots available. Support the New York SSA, sign up, go to the event. If you are going, reach out to me. You can reach me very easily through LinkedIn. Shoot me an email, Thaddeus@s3.partners. Would love to catch up, pick your brain a little bit, hear your thoughts. Give us feedback on the show. What would you like to see? What's important to you and information that we can provide to help make this show stronger. And then, of course, the big spring event, March 18th to the 20th in San Antonio. If you haven't been into San Antonio before, the Riverwalk is incredible. That's going to be an awesome location for the spring SSA event. I will be there as well. So looking forward to seeing everybody at the spring SSA conference. I am your host, Thaddeus Campbell, Director of Business Development, Strategic Branding at S3 Partners. We are owners, reps, project management. We'll do underwriting. Any needs you have for ground-up construction in the self-storage space, reach out to me. Happy to be of service. Of course, we're very active in small bay flex, boat and RV, and now IOS, industrial outsourced storage. So if you have any needs, you want to run a project by us, happy to connect. Would love to talk to you about it. My co-host, Chris Berg, the AI storage guy, very much looking forward to having him back on the show soon. Off for Christmas vacation. Cannot thank all of you enough for watching and supporting to the show. One more shout out to our title sponsor, QuikStor, Brett Henry, Andre Hadzi Pavlovich, and the team. So grateful to have them on board supporting the show. We'll see everybody again next week. We will be live on Wednesday on New Year's Eve. We're not going to do a show on New Year's. Don't want to have that, trying to pay attention to what's happening the day after the celebration. So we'll have the show again next week on Wednesday. A lot coming up in the New Year's as we're going to be live at the New York Investment Forum, and much more coming up in 2026. Everybody, thanks so much for supporting the show. Grateful for all of you. We'll be back next week on the Self Storage Report.